The question of whether a U.S. president can deport millions of immigrants, regardless of status, has become a focal point in national debate, particularly as recent policies and enforcement actions have brought the issue to the forefront. Understanding the true capacity of any administration to carry out mass deportations requires examining the complex web of legal, logistical, and diplomatic realities that govern immigration enforcement in the United States. First, there are the legal and constitutional boundaries. The U.S. Constitution guarantees due process rights to all people present on American soil, not just citizens. This means that, except in very limited situations, the government cannot simply round up individuals and remove them without individualized hearings and judicial review. Expedited removal procedures do exist for those who have recently crossed the border and cannot show they have been in the country for a certain period. However, for the vast majority of the estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the interior of the country, removal is a lengthy process. Each case must be considered by an immigration judge, with the right to appeal and legal representation. This process can take years, especially given the current backlog in the immigration court system, which now stands at roughly 3.6 million cases. The logistical hurdles are equally daunting. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, commonly known as ICE, employs about 5,500 officers nationwide. The agency has access to approximately 40,000 detention beds on any given day and must coordinate transportation, legal proceedings, and deportation flights. To scale up to the level required to deport millions within a short time frame would not only require a massive, unprecedented mobilization of resources, it would also cost an estimated $315 billion for a one-time removal effort. This would involve hiring thousands of new agents, constructing detention centers capable of housing millions, and vastly increasing the number of removal flights. Such a scale-up is not currently supported by either congressional appropriations or the infrastructure of the Department of Homeland Security. Diplomatic considerations add another layer of complexity. For a deportation to be completed, the home country of the individual must accept their return. While countries like Mexico and El Salvador generally cooperate with U.S. deportation efforts, others, including China, Cuba, and Venezuela, often refuse to accept deportees. In some cases, they may delay issuing travel documents or simply ignore removal requests, effectively stymieing the process. This means that even if the U.S. government is determined to deport someone, it cannot do so unilaterally. Despite these formidable obstacles, the current administration has sought to increase the pace and scope of deportations. Policies such as catch and detain, expanded expedited removal authority, and even the invocation of wartime statutes like the Alien Enemies Act have been considered or implemented to streamline removals. Notably, the administration has moved to revoke humanitarian parole and halt work permits for over 500,000 individuals, primarily from countries such as Venezuela, Haiti, Cuba, and Nicaragua, who had previously entered the country legally under temporary programs. This has made these individuals newly vulnerable to removal, even though many had previously lived and worked in the U.S. with the government's blessing. The actual numbers tell a story of both increased enforcement and the limits of what is possible. In just a few months, deportations have reportedly surpassed 139,000, an impressive figure by recent historical standards, but still far from the millions sometimes cited in political rhetoric. Among those deported are 238 Venezuelan nationals who, notably, were sent to El Salvador's Terrorism Confinement Center, a facility infamous for its harsh conditions, despite many of these individuals having no criminal record. For context, even at the height of enforcement under the Trump administration's first term, annual deportations never exceeded roughly 350,000. This lags behind the Obama administration's record of approximately 432,000 removals in 2013. The aggressive approach to enforcement has not gone unnoticed or uncontested. Major cities, notably Los Angeles, have seen a surge in protests and civil unrest. Community organizations, labor unions, and socialist groups have organized demonstrations, some of which have led to confrontations with law enforcement. Recent clashes in Los Angeles resulted in at least 10 arrests by the Los Angeles Police Department and 17 by the California Highway Patrol during a single incident on a major freeway. Nationwide, ICE raids in the LA area alone have led to around 150 immigrant arrests, with consular sources documenting the detention of dozens of foreign nationals, including Mexicans and Indonesians, in the first weeks of June. The funding and coordination of these protests have themselves become a point of federal scrutiny. High-profile officials and legislators have pointed to a variety of organizations, such as Chirla CIU, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and Unión del Barrio, as key actors in organizing and funding protest logistics. There are also reports of proxy funding, with some sources alleging links to foreign actors and suggesting that millions of dollars in public grants may have supported these activities. High-profile figures have cited instances of online advertisements offering significant compensation to protest participants, though some of these claims have been debunked as hoaxes. The FBI is conducting ongoing investigations to determine the extent and coordination of funding behind the unrest. The deployment of National Guard troops and even Marines to Los Angeles has escalated tensions further. Curfews have been imposed, and state officials have initiated legal challenges against federal intervention. Public opinion remains sharply divided. Some Americans support the use of military force to maintain order and enforce immigration laws, while others view it as an overreach and a threat to civil liberties. In summary, while the administration has dramatically increased the pace of deportations and taken unprecedented steps to target individuals who previously held legal status, the reality is that a true mass deportation, removing millions in a short period, is not feasible under current legal, logistical, and diplomatic conditions. The system simply does not have the capacity, nor the legal latitude, to process removals on such a scale. Instead, what we are witnessing is a substantial increase in enforcement actions, targeting both undocumented immigrants and those whose legal protections have been revoked, resulting in tens of thousands of removals each month.
Protests are both a symptom and a catalyst, reflecting deep divisions within American society about the future of immigration policy, the limits of executive power, and the meaning of justice and belonging in the United States. The story continues to unfold, shaped by the push and pull of law, politics, and the lived experiences of millions of people.